we're back with another Agree or Disagree for this week, for the third Formula One race week of the season. 3 in a row. Wow, we are absolutely loving these Formula One race weekends. Of course, the final one before we do get a week's break, and then we are back for another 3 for Silverstone and, of course, Spain. So, Agree or Disagree will be taking a break after this week, but it will be back for another 3 weeks on a Monday to kick off your race week. We've got a little couple of changes for this episode, and maybe for the foreseeable future. We're not going to be holding up rubbish placards that we used to have. We're just going to be having an agree or disagree on the screen. And this week we've got 4 opinions for you guys this week instead of the usual 6. So let's kick off with these 4 opinions for this episode for Agree or Disagree. And the first one comes in from Lyle, but not literally from Lyle. He's going to read out the first one, of course. I mean, to be fair, if it really did get that bad, then maybe we could, submit our own opinions. Lyle, what is the first opinion coming in this week?
Well, the first opinion is from me, and it is that the F1 debate show is utter garbage. I agree with that.
I agree completely.
Oh, well, I don't know. Right, anyways. No, the real one. It comes in from Eli Sasak, username _Drade_. And he says, Albon would have won Austria if not for Hamilton. And obviously, Alexander Albon, just to explain, collided with Lewis Hamilton for the second time. He went around the outside, going downhill into turn 4. Lewis kind of was on the racing line. Obviously, Albon going kind of onto the curbs, got pushed out by Lewis Hamilton, went over the gravel, and obviously sustained damage to his car, which could have possibly led to gearbox failure, obviously which Alex Albon sustained afterwards. But obviously in terms of the initial crash, Lewis Hamilton went into Alex, got a 5-place grid penalty and penalty points for that. Now I'm going to say, obviously Alex Albon, great Red Bull driver, did have a chance at the race, but I'm going to say to that, disagree.
I'm going to go on a different tangent, and I'm going to say agree.
Wow. The reason I'm saying disagree is just because of the pace of Bottas. Like Australia 2019, we all thought Hamilton was going to, run the race. He was going to be in charge. It's a little bit like every team obviously has, 2 drivers, and, the top 6, we always say the top 6, 2 Ferraris, 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bull. But really, there's only one guy at the front driving. That's Sebastian Vettel for Ferrari. That's what we thought last year anyways. Obviously, Charles he'd just been implemented in the team from Alfa Romeo Sauber. So there was Sebastian at Red Bull, there was Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, obviously again much stronger than Valtteri, especially after Valtteri's James and things like that, and obviously Max Verstappen at Red Bull over Pierre Gasly at that time. So we thought it was just going to be one of those 3, and we didn't really even think about Bottas or Leclerc or even Gasly at that point. Yeah. And Bottas just absolutely stormed in qualifying, he stormed in the race, he won the race, and comes out with those infamous words, how about that, and to whom it may concern. And I really like that, because it means the fact of like Mercedes, this is what you get, because you didn't believe in me, no one thought I could do that. And that's exactly what he did in Austria. And again, I don't think a lot of people thought that. If we were thinking Mercedes and we were thinking that Black Arrows was going to be strong, which it was, we obviously were thinking Hamilton, because he's going for 7, he's going for 91, all that jargon. We never really thought it was going to be Valtteri Bottas, but he was just on fire. He led that race from start to finish. He was just untouchable. He really, really was. And even Lewis was struggling on the pace. Now, of course, Mercedes having a little bit of problems with the car, gearbox and power unit. They were told to stay off the curbs. They had a bit of a different flow, which obviously they've changed for the round 2 in Styria, obviously just also Austria. But Mercedes were flying, but Valtteri was just on top. He was definitely the number 1. He deserved that win, and it was very much a how about that kind of thing. Alex was good in that car. Obviously, if Max was still in the race, he would have been better than him, which he was. I think he was 2nd place or leading even at one point. No, he wasn't. He was 2nd place, obviously, until he had that retirement on lap 11 due to the power unit. Obviously, no one's fault. That's just one of those unfortunate things that happens, a bit like Lewis in Sepang 2016. So obviously Max was better than Albon at that point, had much better pace. You also had people like Charles Leclerc, even people like Lando Norris and Sergio Perez, who I would say had better pace than Albon, who were creeping up to those positions. He just obviously had a good start, and that Red Bull was obviously quite strong, and obviously it's a good track. Red Bull really like it to be in that position. It was good for him. And he was taking the chance to fighting Hamilton, so he was doing quite well. But I didn't think he could have won. Just for those things, I thought Valtteri was a lot stronger. Obviously, Lewis was fighting him. And we all know how good Lewis is in terms of a fight. I know I say that, it might sound like I'm being a bit naive because obviously I know what happened in that collision there, but it was just one of those things. I would say it was a racing incident, but obviously you had to give Lewis Hamilton, I think, the penalty at that point. That's not really what a 6-time world champion does, and it happened 2 rounds ago in Brazil also last year. He was a good driver, he is a good driver, Alex Albon. He did a great race in Austria, Austria, very good in Austria. But no, I don't think he could have won. And basically, Jordan, just for that reason. So, you said agree. Now, we said, obviously, we've had questions on Alex before, and he is a fascinating character to watch. Is he going to turn into Pierre, or is he going to be his own guy? You said agree. So, you obviously think Alex Albon, if he didn't collide with Hamilton, would have won, beaten Hamilton, beaten Valtteri Bottas to the front, and obviously won the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix. Tell us why you agree to that.
Well, first of all, you had the safety car as well, which obviously when that came out, when that went in, cars went underway. Albon had really good pace on the Mercedes. Now, you mentioned there before about the Mercedes had to stay off the curbs. That cost them a lot of time. Now, if Max Verstappen had been in that Grand Prix, he could have been that one to possibly overtake both Mercedes if that was the case. Mercedes and Red Bull look really, really strong in 2020. And by the way, when we're on about the incident, we obviously mean the first race, because we're recording this before the second Austrian Grand Prix, the Styrian Grand Prix, in case there is another altercation between Albon and Lewis. In case you're like, well, hang on a minute, which one are you guys on about? It was the first one of obviously the first race of the season, and. So, the Mercedes car had really good pace. Bottas had exceptional pace in the race. It was clear to see. He pulled away and he was just gone. But once the safety car came out, the cars went in. Mercedes double stacked, which was brilliant. Went on the hard set of tyres and they ran until the end. Then they were told to stay off the curbs. They lost a lot of time, and Bottas, despite leading the race, was being challenged by his teammate. Now, team orders were then implemented, and therefore, Hamilton couldn't really attack Bottas, and Bottas had to sit back because of the curbs. That now led, with Max Verstappen out of the race, Albon the opportunity to go and catch the Mercedes drivers. Albon, who was on the softer set of tyres as well, Mercedes, when the I don't know which safety car it was, but there was another safety car where the Mercedes stayed out on the harder set of tyres. Everybody else pitted. Like the Ferraris went on the super softs, the McLarens went on the softs. So there was a different kind of strategy, and everyone was like, oh, hang on a minute, this race has just turned on its head all of a sudden. So, and immediately we were like, Albon could win this. He really, really could. So when, unfortunately they collided, and it was absolutely, it was gutting to see it, really, but Albon wasn't that far away, and of course the safety car did close the gap. And I honestly believe, because of that, because the Mercedes had to stay off the curbs, because Albon was on a fresher set of tyres, and that Red Bull car looks really good, I think Albon would have overtook not only Hamilton but Bottas and went on to win the Grand Prix. It really could have happened. Having that podium, would have been incredible, but then having that race win would have been even better. And when Verstappen retired, it was then up to Albon to go and get the point, and that's what he was just about to do. Switch back 12 months ago, you had Pierre Gasly a lap down on his teammate, and fast forward a year with Alexander Albon, he's within a couple of positions to go and win a Grand Prix. How incredible is that in the space of a year? So, kind of shows everything, that Gasly wasn't up for the job and Albon was the right guy to go for. But it was really unfortunate to see what had happened, of course, the two guys coming together. And what could have been, it really could have been. But I honestly do believe Albon could have went and won that Grand Prix. So the next opinion comes in from Milesy or Miles at R502. And he comes in with one of the first Alonso opinions of this episode. He says, Renault should have waited until the end of the season to make the call on Fernando Alonso. If Zhou or Lundgaard get enough super license points this year, it feels unfair to deny them the opportunity at Renault. So in case you missed it, Fernando Alonso is coming back to Formula One. It hasn't
Really?
made the headlines.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? I didn't expect it either. He says. So yeah, Fernando Alonso is returning to Renault for 2021, replacing Daniel Ricciardo, who is of course going off to McLaren. So yeah, that's gonna be rather interesting. So Renault should have waited until the end of the season to make the call on that second seat. Oh, it's a tough one because it's the whole what if situation of what if that both drivers didn't get enough super license points. What if anything else could have happened really? So I'm going to say. Oh, I'm going to go and say disagree.
I'm going to say agree to that.
Oh, he's going to go agree. This is a whole different opinion episode. Now, firstly of all, yes, Renault have missed the opportunity as well to go on and employ one of their younger drivers. They haven't employed one since they're one of their drivers academy since 2011. I think I read you that stat as well on the Fernando Alonso episode on the debate show Saturday just gone, explaining how many teams have promoted their junior drivers to Formula One. Not necessarily to that particular team, just in Formula One in general. In Renault, nobody since 2011. So. It comes as no surprise that they haven't done it this time around. But saying that, losing a guy like Daniel Ricciardo to leaving Renault after just one season it speaks volumes. The fact that Renault, where they are at the moment, they had a very bad 2019, and that alone was enough to convince Ricciardo, I don't want to be here anymore. They promised Ricciardo the world. They promised him a championship, maybe not a championship winning car, but a car that could challenge for podiums, challenge for race wins, and then say into the new regulations as a top team. And Ricciardo was supposed to be that guy to go into the car and make it all happen. But like I said, a year passes, or just over a year, and he's jumping ship to McLaren. So there's clearly something he doesn't quite believe in. So Renault needed a top driver in straight away to make the headlines, to go, right, okay, we've lost a big star, but we're also going to employ another one to make our intentions clear that we are ready to go forward. Because if Alonso wants to be a part of it, then maybe somebody else wants to as well. And not only that, maybe Renault believe that Joe and Lundgaard aren't exactly ready just yet. Personally, I would have liked to see one of the younger guys, promoted from Formula 2 to the Renault seat. But in saying that, a guy like Alonso brings in a lot of experience, what we've explained before. Alonso is a quality driver. He really is. As a driver as a whole, he's brilliant. And for Renault, that's a good opportunity, for Alonso to give feedback and to progress forward. He just is. He's the one of the best to have around who is available at the moment. So for me, going forward as well, having that Alonso seat, because he's not going to be there for 4 or 5 years and win championships. He's just going to be there for a couple of years. Then, when the time is ready, put a guy in, either replace him or even alongside him should Ocon decide to move off to Mercedes or even somewhere else for that matter if he decides to. Because Renault like to switch up their driver lineup. They haven't kept the same drivers for 2 seasons in a row. Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. So for me, I do believe I am disappointed that Joe and Lundgaard didn't get the job or the promotion. However, getting Alonso winning quite early on is, like I said, it's that intention. That headline of Alonso is come back to Formula One to get everyone interested, everybody interested and on board, and go, wow, maybe there is something that does meet the eye. Because if Alonso looked at it and went, this doesn't look right to me, I don't like it, then he wouldn't have signed the contract in the first place. So yeah, that's why I'm saying disagree. Maybe not should have waited, but maybe in 2022, maybe get somebody else in there in the Renault seat when they've had enough experience in the young driver academy and of course in Formula 2. Lyle, you said agree as well.
Yep.
Different to what I said as well. You said agree as well. So yeah, what's your reasons why you agree?
Well, yeah, I mean, firstly, I'm loving this. I love when we disagree. I think we need to do this for the sake of the episode. Yeah, I completely agree. It was an incredibly early signing. I mean, of course, it's July, but in terms of the actual 2020 season, we just finished round 1, and someone had already been signed, Fernando Alonso. Firstly, again, like we said on Saturday, a lot of it refers back to that, as John said there about the Formula 2 feeder drivers and Renault Junior Academy drivers and things like that. It was incredibly early, and we didn't think that Fernando Alonso was going to be actually a Renault. It was early. I don't get why these decisions have to be made at this point. To be honest, Formula One's always had people signed around like the Singapore, Japan time, like late, maybe late September to October, or really the month of October. That's when, drivers are re-signed things. Obviously, that's when Michael announced his retirement in 2012. That's when Charles Leclerc was signed by Ferrari. That's where, obviously, a lot of the transfer rumours were talked about last year. So things like, where was Bottas going to be going, and Ocon, and Ricciardo and Hulkenberg and things like that. Actually, I say that, there was even rumours about Bottas going in, Hungary time and things like that. Maybe they're just quite early about, what is happening. And again, obviously we had, even before the season even started, Carlos Sainz going to Ferrari, which, that one really you can't compare to Fernando, because that was more like, Sebastian was almost, told to leave. Now we've heard from what Scuderia Ferrari said, that it was more of a Sebastian is just going to say, Dankeschön and leave on his own accord. He's going to be, told to leave. And obviously Carlos was signed. I do think it was early for them, obviously, mainly because what Jordan said there about the Renault Junior program, the Formula 2 drivers, Joe and Lundgaard. If they did wait at the end of the season, they could have possibly got super license points and the experience. Now, I know it sounds weird, but maybe you say to them, right, obviously Daniel's leaving, which, they'd have already known that. This season is your season to prove to us that you are ready for it. So, Formula 2 starts in Austria. Obviously, they've already had the Austrian Grand Prix. The Styrian Grand Prix, which would be Formula 2's second race, like Formula 1. Obviously, much of the Formula 1 season is the Formula 2 season. These drivers who, obviously, Joe and Lundgaard, and even people like Calderon, and Aiken, who might still be in the mix, have basically been told, right, this is your time to shine. You haven't signed anyone. You're all on level playing fields, and you all have the chance to fight for this position. Now they've kind of shut the door on that. So these Formula 2 drivers who, of course they're fighting to get to Formula 1, and they don't always have to sign with, who they're with. So for example, like Mick Schumacher's with Ferrari and Prima, doesn't mean he has to go to Ferrari. He could easily go to Red Bull or something. Well, I say easily, probably not easy, but he could obviously do that. But those drivers are in Renault because they expect to be in that Renault seat, in that yellow car, in 2021. And actually, I just want to bring in something from when me and Jordan went to Silverstone last year. We met Jack Aiken, Renault junior driver at that point. He just won the Formula 2 sprint race on the Sunday, early before the Formula 1 Grand Prix. And we asked him then, we said, have you got a chance to go to Renault? And he said, well, we'll have to see what Nico Hülkenberg does. So again, I know we didn't need really him to say that that's how it works, but again, that's what his mentality was, that Nico would leave and he would go up because he's in the junior program, he's next in line. That's the point. It's Formula 2, it's kind of breeding drivers to be in Formula 1, the road to Formula 1. That's like that's the F2 tagline, the road to F1, building stars for the future. We all kind of look at Formula 2 and we think, Mick Schumacher, Robert Schwartzman, we're building, the next Sebastian Vettel, we're building the next Lewis Hamilton, the next Charles Leclerc, and things like that. It was a little odd to do that, because now, as I've just said, going back there, they've shut the door, and Lundgaard and Joe will think, well, Renault don't want us for next year. Our only option is to hopefully get signed by another team, but obviously we're not in their junior program, and Renault only have one team, which is Renault, or we do another year in Formula 2, which obviously is not too bad, but, obviously Formula 2 drivers won't want to stick around in Formula 2 for, and I would say a year longer than they need to do, unless they're going for the championship and they think, I've got a better chance to win the Formula 2 championship than having Formula 1. I think they could have waited till the end of the season, signed Alonso there, no harm would have been done, but the benefit would have been Lundgaard and Joe proven in Formula 2 that they deserve that Renault seat, which is, what a lot of the teams have done over the years. The top teams in F1 have done it for the lower teams in F1. The lower teams in F1 have done it for Formula 2 drivers. And those two drivers, in turn, would have obviously created a better season for their team in Formula 2. And yeah, there'd just been no harm signing him at the end of the year, because it's not like Fernando was hot news. It's not like he was going to get signed by many teams. So yes, I do think that they should have waited to the end of the year. But there we go. He's obviously been signed now, and that's almost silly season, done and dusted. Obviously, there might be some other moves around and stuff, but it looks like everything's all done and dusted now. So he signs to Ferrari and now Alonso to Renault. And we haven't even got to round 3 yet, so it's all heating up. Might even be already finished. Anyways, so moving on to the third statement, and again, we're not done with Fernando Alonso, because this one's very similar. Taking out the Renault part and just saying, Alonso. Sorry, this comes from ZZ Jeffrey ZZ. Great name. A lot of Z's there. Are you just asleep? Is Jeffrey just asleep there? Is it like ZZZ just sleeping? Like those old cartoons that just says ZZZ when you're not sleeping. So right, he says Alonso should not have returned. So we're taking out kind of the Renault thing a little bit. Yeah. And we're not just focusing on the team. We're just looking at Fernando Alonso. Should have not have come back. Now, obviously, we're not going to go over it again because we've discussed it loads about Alonso's history and things like that. Mm-hmm. But Fernando Alonso should have stayed away. 2018 should have been his first retirement. And I'm going to say to that... that's a hard one. I haven't really thought about it. Alonso, I'm going to say... Do you know what? I'm going to say agree. No, I'm not. Sorry, no, I'm not. I'm going to say disagree. And I'm going to say Alonso should have returned.
I'm kind of going to go on... I'm going to go almost back on what I said before. I'm going to say agree.
You're going to say agree. So Jordan thinks he should not have returned. I'm saying yes. Now, obviously, when the breaking news came out, I did the video and sat in front of the camera and explained to you guys why I don't think he should have returned. He has had a very turbulent career. Obviously, involved with gates and controversy and the GP2 engine and stuff. But mainly, that's the thing that you've got to remember. When he was at McLaren, and that McLaren Honda, which, by the way, I know that obviously Renault don't use Honda. It's not Renault Honda. That would be a weird thing to say. Actually, maybe in the future, I guess. You could see Renault Honda. I don't know. But that's the thing. Renault are obviously not going to be a top team. They kind of are like a little bit of McLaren Honda. It's not going to change overnight for Fernando. But like I was saying on Saturday, and like I said in that breaking news video, when he was at McLaren, he seemed to whinge a lot. He seemed to complain a lot. Fernando demanded a fast car. Now, of course, we all do. Sebastian does at Ferrari. But Fernando Alonso was not giving McLaren any, light at the end of the tunnel. He was not saying, right, I'm here to help you in a midfield battle. Fernando just seemed to be, he wanted McLaren to basically get him to wins all the time. And McLaren weren't doing that, so he was just losing his rag. And it just seemed like he was complaining. I said to Jordan, every single time Fernando Alonso's kind of radio message came on, I always expected him to just come out with a complaint. I don't want to do this. Why do we have to do this? Why are we racing? What's the point? Again, I mentioned obviously the GP2 engine and the save fuel in Canada. But I've actually just thought of another one as well. In Sochi, remember when the car conked out on ran out of electrical power on 2017 in Sochi. Again, obviously that wasn't his fault, but just getting out of the car and just walking away. I've tried buttons, you tried them. It wasn't giving the team, any support. They were going through these problems as well. It wasn't just Alonso. And I said Jensen got on with it and Stoffel got on with it. I think his reputation was kind of a bit more like he's not ready. He's not, he doesn't want to help the team go forward. He just is in this for himself. And it was a little bit strange to do. It's kind of like insulting this one football team and then going to support them. He's done all this. He didn't insult Formula 1, but he's kind of said, right, I'm off. I've got other things to do. IndyCar, 24-hour Le Mans, chasing the Triple Crown, again, as we've discussed. Mm-hmm. And this hasn't worked. And now he's back. And now he's in the Renault media on Twitter and stuff going, Renault's amazing. It's my bread and butter. I won championships with him. I'm so happy to come back. I still have fire. And it's like, have you really, Fernando? Are you just saying this? Really? Really? I always remember just kind of... I always remember when, because obviously, if you know Newcastle, we don't like Matt Ashley. I always remember when Jamal Lascelles signed a contract about a year ago now. This meme shared, it was that Smithers holding Homer Simpson to Mr. Burns' office, you've got to say this. And there was a statement come out of his mouth that said, Mike Ashley is actually really nice. And it just reminds us of that. I love that.
He was held at gunpoint.
Because he wouldn't say that unless he'd been signed for a lot of money. It's a little bit like that. I don't know why he's come back. As I said there, for Renault Sport, it's incredible. But in terms of Alonso, now again, it's not really said if this is the perspective of Alonso or Renault, but Alonso should not have returned for himself. You've got to question it, and you've got to think, why has he done this? But do you know what? After we did the F1 debate show, I did the breaking news, we've done this video. I'm kind of come around, Jordan, to like Fernando. I'm turning a real Fernando fanboy. So no, I'm happy he's come back. And I disagree with that statement, and I think Alonso should have returned, and obviously I'm glad that he will be on the grid next year. So Jordan, obviously you you agree with that statement, and you think he should not have returned.
Yeah.
And obviously we talk about Alonso a lot, so nothing's changed for you, even though you have got his Renault shirt. Why do you think that?
Well, even though in the previous opinion I was explaining about that Renault should have waited till the end of the season to decide, it was almost like a bold statement type of thing, like I said, to sign Fernando Alonso just to make Renault's intentions clear that they are willing, that the intentions are to move back to the front of the field. Now, although Alonso, what he's going to be bringing to Renault is a really, really good thing, and like when they announced it, I was like, yeah, all right, fair enough that Alonso going to Renault, in a way it does make sense. But at the same time, I was like, but Alonso has already had his time in Formula One. I'm not talking about Alonso to Renault, I'm talking about Alonso in Formula One. He's had his time in Formula One. He's won his championships. He's won his races. Like, why does he have that desire? Because let's face it, if he had no desire to come back to Formula One, he wouldn't have entered talks with Renault. He wouldn't have signed the contract. So therefore, that burning desire was still there. He's still addicted to that drug of Formula One, where he needs that thrill every single Sunday, or not every single Sunday, but every other Sunday, where he wants to race and wants to fight wheel to wheel. And it's probably a thrill that he can't find in IndyCar in Le Mans, which, I mean, to be fair, he did race in there, but there weren't permanent contracts. He wasn't assigned to a team for a season. He was only taking part in Le Mans just to try and complete the Triple Crown, which he's yet to do, by the way. It's almost like it really does feel like, and not only Alonso's relationship with Formula One, but his relationship with Renault. It's like going out with somebody who, you've had some amazing memories. Things were going really well, and everything was just going really, really swimmingly. Then as time goes on, maybe things weren't as rosy as what they used to be, and arguing starting to occur, and then you're not that happy, so you decide to walk away, and you go with somebody else. But then that person's should not bring the same happiness as to what you had in your previous relationship. And then you can't stop thinking about that person. Then you go back to them, and you try and make it work again, and it doesn't work, and so forth. You know where I'm going with that. And that's what this kind of feels like with Alonso, and more so Renault than it is with Formula One, because Alonso was in F1 since 2001 all the way until 2018. He's been with Renault. This will be his third stint in the team, so you know what I mean, going back and forth. Will it end in tears? Probably. But like I said, it would have been nice to see somebody else given an opportunity to go into Formula One, because like I said, if Alonso didn't have that desire, chances are maybe Renault would have signed one of their junior drivers, and promote them. If not, maybe look further afield and go with maybe Bottas or Gasly, like those names. They were linked with that seat when Ricciardo announced his retirement. So, and like I said, Alonso's had his time in Formula One. He's getting on a bit now, and it's the same with Raikkonen. I'm feeling the same way with Raikkonen. Like, mate, you've had your time. Like, please, thanks for the memories, and you're a great driver, but give somebody new a chance, and let's go forward. Just give somebody else this opportunity, because chances are we're going to have both Raikkonen and Alonso on the grid still, and it'll be 2021. Like, guys, these guys were racing back in 2003, and they're still here. Give someone else a go, and that's when good drivers do slip through the cracks, because you got those drivers such as Raikkonen and Alonso still on the grid. This isn't a rant for those two drivers. I'm just saying that for me, Alonso, although going to Renault, I thought is a good idea from Renault, and it's not the worst decision in the world. At the same time, though, Alonso back in Formula One, he's had his time. He shouldn't have come back. He should have stayed away, because if it ends in tears, like it did in McLaren, it's not a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale ending, is it? It's just how it was when he left McLaren. The relationship was toxic. Everything had broken down. Literally, he just didn't have that love anymore. And if he's not going to be winning, which chances are he's not going to be winning, he's not going to have that love anymore. So I don't get it. I really don't understand. But we could all be proven wrong. So let's see how that one goes. So the final opinion of the episode comes in from the F1 Club, a very nice little YouTube channel that is making decent progress as well. Obviously, Joe, the guy who runs it, very, very nice guy as well. He comes in with an absolute belter. And of course, the title of this video, I've got to include this. You just have to. He says, are you ready for this? Albon could surpass Verstappen given the right tools. So what he basically means is that if you give Alex Albon more or less the same car as Verstappen, he could beat him. Now, this is the whole thing of like what ifs. Like when you say, "Oh, Ayrton Senna could beat Hamilton in today's standards," how do you know? Because the two totally different eras. Senna's driving style might not have suited the cars of today, and vice versa with Hamilton in Senna's era and that type of thing. It's that burning question, isn't it? Like if this guy had this car, like if Hamilton was in a Williams, could he win a race? Easy that one. No, Hamilton's good, but he's not that good, guys. Albon could surpass Verstappen. Oh, that is a tough one. That is a really tough one. Oh, dearie me. I'm going to say agree. I'm going to say agree on that one.
I'm going to say agree also.
Firstly of all, that is a very tough one to actually answer. Now, you could say agree, you could say disagree, because that's the thing, you just don't know. That's a really tough, that's a tough thing, you just don't know, because you don't know how Albon will cope. Push it alongside Verstappen week in, week out. Because Verstappen is a quality driver. He's one of them once in a generation type of drivers. He's had his ups and downs, but he's certainly got his feet firmly on the ground, and he's ready to go and challenge to win a world championship. Hoping that his car allows him to do so after commiserations, retiring from the first race in Austria. Not how he wanted to get the season started. But Albon, he was up there. Absolutely, he was up there. And Ferraris fell off the pace. They didn't look quick. Racing Point's race pace wasn't that impressive. McLaren's, again, they're not pushing for race wins. So it's really going to be between the two Mercedes and the two Red Bulls, not the two Mercedes and the one Red Bull, like what we would have seen if Gasly had have signed for this season, perhaps, or if Gasly had his pace into this season in the Red Bull, because Gasly was just nowhere near Verstappen whatsoever. That's what Red Bull need. So if they were given the same orders and everything, no team orders, let them battle. Every driver is beatable. Every single driver has that little weakness in them. You know what I mean? And Hamilton has it, Vettel has it, and Charles Leclerc has it, and even Schumacher had it, Senna had it. Drivers do really, really well, but every so often, they do fall off the curve. They do make a mistake, and that ultimately can choose whether they win or lose a championship. And Albon is a really good. He's shown how good he really is, and I think a lot of people have been quite surprised as to how good Albon actually is. And I've been impressed with him, since he came into Formula One, and now he is able to to be on. I wouldn't say be on par with Verstappen, but certainly challenge Verstappen. We are yet to see the kind of them go wheel to wheel, because when Verstappen's retired, Albon's obviously is going to go and beat him. That's it. But you can't just say, right, okay, well, Albon's a better driver because he's beat Verstappen, but Verstappen's car let him down, and Verstappen was ahead. So how do you work that one out? But certainly, if Albon pushes Verstappen all to his far, maybe Verstappen could make a couple of mistakes and stuff, and we'll see definitely both drivers' abilities in wheel to wheel action, and certainly, like I said, every single driver can be beaten, and Albon, like I said, he has the ability to do so. Yeah, of course, he is still young. He will make mistakes, but when he gets to that settling stage of being in Formula One for a couple of years alongside Max with the same car with the same type of orders, I really do think Albon and maybe some other drivers could go alongside Verstappen and beat him, because like I said, Verstappen is beatable. He can be beaten. He's not impossible to beat, but it will be tough. That's what I'm saying. It will be tough for Albon, but it's not impossible. So for that reason, I would say I agree. Albon could beat Verstappen with the right tools. Lyle, your team, Red Bull, of course, your two drivers, Albon and Verstappen. So you're also on the same wavelength as me, and saying Albon can beat the Dutchman Max Verstappen with the same car.
I'm loving this question. Absolutely love it. Verstappen is loved. He is the godchild. He is up and coming. Like, man, oh, that's what people think. And the one thing that I always kind of would bug me about Verstappen is people going on about how young he was when he won his first race. Obviously, he's the youngest Formula 1 winner and he'll never be beaten. But that's not something he can ride for the next 20 years. And I remember also seeing a stat, so Verstappen surpassed his 100 start last year. I think it was around the US Grand Prix. He surpassed that with 7 wins. I remember seeing a stat that said Verstappen had achieved, at the end of the season, I think it was 104 starts, he achieved 8 wins. So say 7 when he got to his 100th start. Sebastian Vettel, who, remember, Max is thought to be like the youngest, the fastest, the best prodigy ever in Formula 1. Sebastian Vettel at 60 starts was on 7 wins. So Verstappen, 100 wins, 100 starts, 7 wins. Sebastian Vettel, 7 wins, 60 starts. And again, people like Lewis Hamilton were up there. But because Max started when he was incredibly young, 17, and won the first race when he was 18 and a half, and obviously that will never be beaten, that's an amazing accolade that people are going absolutely insane about. Max will be in Formula 1 for the next 20 years. Will he really? He'll win 10 World Championships. Will he really? People were saying he was going to leave Red Bull at the end of the season, last season, because he wanted the championship yesterday. Did he really? People thought he wouldn't sign for Red Bull this year because he thought he can't stay around for a few years. He's got to win a World Championship. Does he really? Like, come on, Max Verstappen is just a normal driver at the end of the day. He's incredibly fast, but why is he like the next god of Formula 1? Like, sometimes I really can't take how much he is put on a pedestal. It's ridiculous. And Alex Albon is not. Pierre Gasly was not, Danny Kvyat was not, even Daniel Ricciardo wasn't, and he was definitely capable of beating Max Verstappen. Alex Albon can definitely beat him. So when he came in last year, Belgium was his first race, after the controversial trading places part 2, you could say, he beat Max Verstappen in the next few rounds. Obviously, Belgium beat him in, I think he was leading him in the championship in the second half of the season, up until he won his race in Brazil, but even then it was very close. Max did obviously retire from Belgium and was having problems with the car, fair enough, and obviously, as Jordan said, you can't really say he's beaten him in that way. In terms of stats, in terms of black and white, you of course have. It's a little bit like the Nico Rosberg thing when he won the championship in 2016. A lot of people poke at Hamilton's engine blowout in Japan and saying that's the reason Hamilton didn't win. Again, people go to Spa 2012 and say Fernando Alonso, he didn't win the World Championship because he was shy of points because of what happened in Spa. Obviously, when Romain Grosjean took him and quite a few people out of the field out, he didn't take Sebastian Vettel out. He obviously got some good points from that race. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, even Lewis at that point, championship contender, didn't obviously get points, and obviously that's why Fernando didn't win the championship. So there's always going to be like this happened, but there's always going to be bickering in F1. But in terms of actual flat out and out racing, of course, it's going to be a big fight between them. Verstappen is very fast, of course. He does know the team. He's been around a lot more years than Alex Albon has. He's just completed his first full year, Alex Albon, compared to Max. I think he's been in Formula 1 for about 5 or 6 now. He knows the team like the back of his hand. It is going to help. Taking out Austria, because again, as we can't count that, and of course, it did happen with both getting DNFs, both retiring. We were just discussing Alex Albon, in 3rd place, going to win the race and stuff. Obviously that would have been great, and that would have stood obviously in this argument. But it didn't happen. Alex did retire afterwards with engine problems, powertrain problems, but he doesn't just have the pace with that car. He's a strong driver. We don't really know much about what he's built around. As I say, with Verstappen, he's been around for a few years. We know what he's capable of. With Alex Albon, there isn't really much because he hasn't even done his full first season at Red Bull. So he started the season with Toro Rosso up until Hungary. Then obviously he jumped in. So Spa, or actually yes, even the actual Spa that's on the calendar will be his year anniversary at Red Bull. Obviously shy a few races because this season has been obviously a lot short, and there's 4 or 5 races before we get to Spa, so it won't be as long, but it'll still be a good Red Bull career. I'm certainly going to look at getting Alex Albon cap and becoming a proper fanboy, because he makes me smile, he makes me happy, and I can't wait to see what he can do, John. So I 100% agree with that statement, and I love that statement, and that's probably one of the best statements we've had, I think, from the entirety of this agree or disagree jargon. So I'm absolutely loving it. And obviously, like always, it's been absolutely great. So again, leave what you think in the comment section below. This one's going to be a good, juicy one to talk about. Alexander Albon, is he better than Max Verstappen? And what do you think? And if you're a Max fan, don't just write Max in the title, in the box, because we're going to be like, no. It's Max, yes, but tell us why. Don't just say we love Max. He's the best thing since sliced bread, or even better than sliced bread. I can't imagine sliced bread getting the orange army like Max Verstappen actually does, but I'd say it will be a good one, and obviously, like always, it's been a great episode. Thank you very much for everyone who sent in their comment.
But yes, as like you said, Lyle, it has been a really, really good, agree or disagree as always. Absolutely loved hearing your guys' opinions as we do every single Monday. Like I said, next Monday there will be no agree or disagree. We're taking a week break from the series because, of course, there is no Grand Prix next week, but we will be back for the build-up for the British Grand Prix with no fans, and we were supposed to be going. Sad face, guys. Sad face. But of course, we're not the only ones affected by that. Many others are too. So until next time, of course, from this series, the series will see you later. But from us, of course, we've got a really good another week's of race content coming up for you guys. F1 24/7 as always, every single Wednesday. Race previews, the debate shows, and the race review live on YouTube. Really, really going strong with that. And of course, if you are new around here, then please like and subscribe as well. It does help the channel massively. And keep an eye out on Twitter as well for when agree or disagree resumes, when we ask for your opinions as well as always. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Watch what you're doing. Stay safe as always. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.